My love, come closer for a moment. Just listen. Not to the noise of the world, not to the voices that made you doubt yourself, but to something softer, something real. Someone lied to you about love. They told you love is pain you must tolerate, that love means chasing someone who keeps running, that love demands you to lose yourself just to be seen. And somewhere along the way, you started believing it. You started thinking that the emptiness in your chest is what love is supposed to feel like. But it's not. Love was never meant to break you. It was never meant to leave you questioning your worth at 2 a.m., staring at your phone, wondering why you're not enough. Real love doesn't confuse you. It doesn't disappear when things get hard. It doesn't make you feel small. My love, let me fix that. Let me show you what love actually feels like. The kind that stays, the kind that understands your silence, the kind that holds you without needing to be asked, the kind that feels like peace, not war. Because you deserve a love that feels like home, not a battlefield. My love, someone lied to you about love. Let me fix that. Before anything else. Before every story you've been told. Before every wound you've carried quietly in your chest like it was something normal, something you were supposed to get used to. I want you to hear this slowly. Not as a theory, not as poetry, not as something you scroll past and forget in the next moment. I want it to land where it matters. Deep. Where you feel things you usually try to ignore. Because love, real love, doesn't shout. It doesn't force itself into your life with noise and confusion. It arrives quietly and it stays like a presence you can trust even when everything else feels uncertain. But someone told you otherwise. Someone made you believe love is supposed to feel like chasing, like running after someone who only turns back when they are bored. Someone made you believe love is supposed to feel like anxiety, like checking your phone more than you check your own breath, like sitting in silence and wondering what you did wrong this time. They made you believe that if you just try harder, if you shrink yourself a little more, if you become easier to handle, softer, quieter, less you, then maybe finally you will be loved the way you deserve. But my love, that was never love. That was confusion dressed as affection. That was distance pretending to be depth. That was someone's inability to stay turning into your belief that you are the problem. And I need you to understand something that might feel uncomfortable at first, because truth often does when you've lived without it for too long. Love does not make you question your worth. It does not sit in your life like a test you are constantly failing. It does not keep you guessing about where you stand. Real love is not a puzzle where you spend your nights trying to find missing pieces in yourself just so someone else can finally choose you completely. Real love does not require you to bleed emotionally just to feel a moment of closeness. And yet, I know, you learned differently. You learned to wait. You learned to overthink. You learned to replay conversations in your head like they were riddles you were supposed to solve. You learned to say it's okay when it wasn't. You learned to accept less and call it patience. You learned to mistake inconsistency for intensity, because when someone gives you love in fragments, even fragments start to feel like something valuable. But listen to me now. Love was never meant to hurt you like that. It was never meant to make you feel like you are standing outside a door that sometimes opens and sometimes doesn't, depending on someone else's mood. You were not meant to earn affection like a reward. You were not meant to perform for attention. You were not meant to become smaller just to fit into someone's uncertainty. You were meant to be met fully, without conditions that change every other day. And I know what they told you. They told you love is complicated, that if it hurts, it means it's real, that if you feel anxious, it means you care deeply, that if you are constantly trying to fix something, it means it's worth it. But those are not truths. Those are excuses people use when they cannot offer consistency, when they cannot offer presence, when they cannot offer emotional safety, because real love is not supposed to feel like survival. It is not supposed to feel like you are bracing yourself before every conversation. It is not supposed to feel like walking on invisible ground, hoping you don't trigger silence again. It is not supposed to make your heart tired. My love, I want to tell you something you may not have heard enough. You were never too much, not when you felt deeply, not when you needed reassurance, not when you wanted clarity, not when you expressed yourself honestly, not when you expected effort to be mutual. You were not too much. You were just asking in the wrong place, from people who only knew how to give in fragments, not fullness. You were not asking for too much love. You were asking the wrong person to love you correctly. There is a difference, and that difference changes everything. Because love, the kind that is real, does not make you shrink, it expands you. It does not silence your voice, it listens to it. It does not make you question your worth, it reflects it back to you, even on days you forget it yourself. It does not disappear when things become inconvenient. It stays, even when silence is heavy, even when emotions are difficult, even when life is not easy. But what you experienced taught you to doubt all of that. It taught you that love is something you must constantly protect, even from the person who is supposed to give it to you. It taught you that you must be careful with your feelings because too much expression might push someone away. It taught you that being yourself fully is risky because not everyone will stay for it. And now you carry that lesson everywhere, even into moments that are safe, you hesitate. Even when someone is kind, you wait for the shift. Even when someone shows up consistently, you wonder how long it will last. Because inconsistency trained your nervous system to expect loss, even in the presence of love. But my love, that is not your truth. That is your conditioning, and it can be unlearned. Love is not supposed to feel like walking through memories that hurt you. It is not supposed to feel like you are always one mistake away from being replaced. It is not supposed to feel like you are competing for attention in something that should already be yours freely. Real love does not require competition. It requires presence. And presence is simple. It does not confuse you. It does not play games. It does not make you question what was said yesterday versus today. It does not create distance and call it space. It does not vanish and call it independence. It shows up, even when it is imperfect, even when it is tired, even when life is heavy, because staying is also a form of love. Not the kind of staying that traps you, not the kind that controls you, but the kind that chooses you again and again without making you earn it every time. And I know you may not trust that idea yet, because your experience has taught you to expect inconsistency, to expect disappointment, to expect emotional hunger. But I want you to imagine something different, even if it feels unfamiliar. Imagine love where you do not have to decode silence. Imagine love where you are not punished for expressing your feelings. Imagine love where your presence is not questioned every few days. Imagine love where you are not left waiting for messages that decide your emotional state. Imagine love where you do not feel like you are constantly proving you are worth staying for. That kind of love exists, not as a fantasy, not as a dream, but as something real, grounded, human, and steady. But first, you have to stop calling pain love, because every time you confuse the two, you abandon yourself a little more. Every time you accept inconsistency and call it passion, you lower your own definition of what you deserve. Every time you stay in something that hurts you, hoping it will become better, you teach your heart to normalize confusion. And your heart deserves clarity. It deserves calmness that does not feel like boredom. It deserves attention that does not feel like anxiety. It deserves affection that does not disappear. It deserves a connection where you are not guessing your place every day. My love, someone lied to you about love. They made it look like suffering is proof, like confusion is depth, like distance is mystery. But real love is not mysterious in the way that hurts you. It is simple in the way that heals you. It feels like exhaling after holding your breath for too long. It feels like warmth without fear of it disappearing. It feels like being seen without having to explain every part of yourself over and over again. And you deserve that kind of love. Not the kind that drains you, not the kind that keeps you waiting, not the kind that only appears when it is convenient. You deserve love that does not make you question your value when things get quiet. Because your value does not change based on someone else's ability to recognize it. And maybe right now, a part of you still thinks love must hurt to be real. Maybe a part of you still equates intensity with chaos. But I want you to slowly, gently, begin to understand something new. Peace is not absence of love. Peace is what love feels like when it is right. And if love does not bring you peace, then it is not love that is wrong. It is the place you are trying to find it in. You were never meant to beg for what should have been given freely. You were never meant to chase what should have stayed. You were never meant to question whether you are enough for someone who truly sees you. Because someone who truly sees you does not make you wonder. They make you feel safe enough to stop wondering at all. And maybe that is where healing begins. Not in finding someone new, not in fixing yourself, but in realizing that love was never supposed to hurt you in the first place. And everything you thought was love that broke you was just a misunderstanding you were never meant to carry. And now you begin to unlearn it slowly, softly, until your heart finally understands what it means to be loved without fear, without doubt, without conditions that change like weather, and you start to feel something unfamiliar rising inside you, something gentle, something steady, something that feels like maybe love was never supposed to be this complicated after all, and maybe you were never the problem. Maybe you were just waiting in the wrong place for something that was always meant to feel like peace and not like this endless cycle of holding on and letting go and hoping and breaking and still trying again, because somewhere deep inside you believe that love has to hurt to matter. But what if it never did? What if love was always meant to be softer than that, kinder than that, more present than that, more real than anything you had to chase? And maybe, just maybe, you were always worthy of that kind of love, even when no one showed it to you, and even when you forgot it yourself, and even when the world made you think otherwise. And now you are standing at the edge of understanding something new, something quiet, something that changes everything. Because if love was never supposed to hurt you, then everything you survived was never love at all. And now you begin to see it differently, slowly, clearly, and it feels like a door opening inside your chest that you never knew was locked. And beyond it, there is something waiting, something steady, something that feels like home. But even as you step closer to that realization, there is still a part of you that hesitates, that wonders if this is real or if it will disappear like everything else did before. And you keep moving forward anyway, because maybe this time love will not leave. Maybe this time love will stay. Maybe this time you will not have to question it every day. Maybe this time it will feel like something you can finally breathe in fully without fear. And just as that thought begins to settle, you find yourself wondering if maybe all along love was never about being chosen by someone else, but about finally choosing yourself in a way that no longer feels like waiting or begging or hoping, but something deeper, something quieter. My love, I need you to hear this in a way you may not have heard it before, not through the filter of your past, not through the voices that made you doubt yourself, but through something softer, something honest. You were never too much. Not your feelings, not your depth, not your silence when you didn't know how to speak, not your words when you finally gathered the courage to express yourself, not your need for reassurance, not your desire for consistency, not the way you loved with your whole heart even when you were not being met halfway. You were never too much, but somewhere along the way, someone made you feel like you were. They didn't say it directly at first. People rarely do. It starts subtly. A sigh when you express yourself, a delay when you reach out, a distance when you ask for clarity, a silence that lasts a little too long, and slowly, without realizing it, you begin to translate that silence into something about yourself. You begin to think, maybe I'm asking for too much. Maybe I care too deeply. Maybe I feel things too intensely. Maybe I should hold back a little. Maybe I should be less. And that is where it begins, the shrinking, not of your body, but of your spirit. You start editing yourself in conversations. You start choosing safer words instead of honest ones. You start swallowing emotions before they can fully rise. You start acting like your needs are burdens instead of natural human truths. You begin to negotiate with your own heart as if feeling deeply is something you must apologize for. But my love, let me tell you something clearly. Your depth was never the problem. The world just doesn't always know what to do with people who feel fully alive. There are people who only understand shallow emotional water. They are comfortable there. It is predictable. It is easy to manage. But when they meet someone who feels deeply, who notices small changes in tone, who loves with awareness, who seeks meaning in connection, they become overwhelmed. Not because something is wrong with you, but because they are not used to presence that real. And instead of admitting that limitation, they call you too much. But what they really mean is, I cannot meet you where you are. And that difference matters more than you think. Because one makes you question yourself, and the other simply reveals incompatibility. But when you don't know that yet, you internalize it. You turn their inability into your identity. You start believing that your emotional honesty is a flaw, that your sensitivity is a burden, that your desire for connection is neediness. And slowly, you begin to dim yourself, not because you want to, but because you are trying to be accepted in places that were never built to hold you fully. And that is where the lie grows roots. Because once you start believing you are too much, you begin to treat yourself like something that needs correction. You start apologizing for things that were never wrong. You start saying it's fine when it isn't. You start pretending you need less, feel less, expect less. But deep inside, you don't actually become less. You just become quieter about it. And silence does not erase who you are. It only hides you from people who were not paying attention in the first place. My love, I want you to imagine something. Imagine a river being told it is too much water. Imagine the ocean being told it is too wide. Imagine the sky being told it is too open. It sounds absurd, doesn't it? Because nature is not too much. It is simply itself. And you are not too much. You are simply someone who was never meant to be contained in shallow understanding. You feel deeply because your heart is alive, not because it is excessive. You express because connection matters to you, not because you are demanding. You seek clarity because confusion hurts you, not because you are difficult. You care because you are capable of care. That is real, not transactional. But not everyone knows how to hold that. So instead of learning, they label. And labels are dangerous when you start believing them. Because once you accept the idea that you are too much, you begin to censor your own existence. You stop reaching out when you need comfort. You stop speaking when something hurts you. You stop expressing joy fully because you are afraid it will be too loud. You start living like your natural self is something to be managed. But love, real love, does not require you to be managed. It requires you to be met. And being met does not mean someone tolerates your emotions. It means they understand that your emotions are part of your humanity. It means they don't panic when you feel deeply. They don't withdraw when you need clarity. They don't disappear when things get emotionally real. They stay present, not perfectly, but consistently. Because consistency is what tells you, you are safe here. And safety is something you should never have to earn by being less of yourself. You were never meant to reduce your voice to be heard. You were never meant to hide your emotions to be accepted. You were never meant to question your worth every time someone else could not meet your emotional language. Because your emotional language is not wrong. It is just honest. And honesty is not always comfortable for people who prefer convenience. There will always be those who want love only when it is easy, only when it is light, only when it does not require emotional responsibility. And when they meet someone like you, someone real, someone open, someone present, they may step back. But that stepping back is not your rejection. It is their limitation showing itself. And I know that distinction can take time to understand. Because when you have been made to feel like the problem, you start looking for flaws in yourself instead of looking at patterns in others. But listen carefully, the right connection does not make you question your natural way of being. It does not make you feel like you are too intense for simply expressing how you feel. It does not make you feel like you are asking for too much when you ask for clarity. It does not make you feel like your presence is heavy. The right connection feels like you can finally stop translating yourself. You don't have to shrink your emotions into smaller versions so they are easier for someone else to carry. You don't have to delay your needs until they become convenient. You don't have to silence your heart to avoid being misunderstood. Because misunderstanding is not your responsibility to prevent by disappearing. And yet, I know how deeply that habit can form. You begin to think love means adjusting yourself endlessly. You begin to think love means patience at the cost of your own peace. You begin to think love means staying even when you are not being held properly. But that is not love. That is endurance mistaken for devotion. And you have endured enough. There is a version of you that still thinks, if I were less emotional, they would stay. If I were less expressive, they would understand me better. If I needed less, I would not lose people. But my love, the truth is simpler and kinder than that. The people meant for you will not ask you to be less. They will not be overwhelmed by your honesty. They will not disappear when you express need. They will not make you feel like your emotions are a problem to solve. They will recognize you not as too much, but as real. And being real is not something you should ever have to apologize for. There is a certain exhaustion that comes from being misunderstood repeatedly. It makes you question your own reflection. It makes you second guess your instincts. It makes you believe that maybe if multiple people reacted the same way, then the problem must be you. But patterns in other people's capacity do not define your value. They define their limit, and your worth is not measured by how many people could handle your depth. It is not measured by how many people stayed. It is not measured by how many people understood you correctly. Your worth exists even in the places where you were misunderstood. Even in the moments you were too much for the wrong hands. Even in the spaces where your emotions were too deep for someone who only knew shallow waters. Because your depth was never meant to be reduced. It was meant to be met by depth of its own. And one day, when you are no longer bending yourself into smaller versions just to be accepted, you will realize something quietly powerful. You were never too much. You were just surrounded by people who could not hold enough. And that changes everything about the story you have been telling yourself.